start.
Hi everyone, happy Wednesday. It's Alicia here, and I'm very excited to be with you today from a very early San Francisco, California. As you may already know, I've been very busy building support for our fireside chat community. And as I mentioned before, we're in the process of setting up our own venture capital fund with some amazing partners here in Silicon Valley, focusing both on the emerging markets and the developed world. It's all incredibly exciting. This week, I visited LinkedIn's headquarters. I also visited AngelList headquarters yesterday. It was absolutely brilliant. I'll be visiting the Google campus, the Facebook campus, and the Apple campus in the next few days. And we'll be sharing photos on our new Instagram account, as well as in our newsletter and on LinkedIn. So stay tuned. Today, we have an incredible and invaluable session planned for you. We have a panel of global business building experts from around the world dialing in to take you on a journey towards scaling your business towards entrepreneurial success. As entrepreneurs, we're often very unsure about how to grow and scale our businesses. So to help you through this incredibly difficult part of your journey, we've recruited some incredible panelists to share their knowledge and insights that they've gained on their journeys to success. Now, given all the excitement around today's topic and the fact we've had so many great events through in advance, and so many of you joining us, please let me go ahead and introduce our VIP guests before asking them to properly introduce themselves to you. So, welcome to Johannesburg, South Africa-based Tom Goldgammer, who's a serial entrepreneur, business builder, and innovator, and one of South Africa's most successful young entrepreneurs. Welcome to New York, USA-based Jessica Perdomo, who's a craftsman, entrepreneur, and business builder. Welcome back to California, USA-based Merit Spangler, who's a business development expert, published writer, and strategist. And welcome to Saudi Arabia-based Mohammed Algazzar, who's a strategist, innovator, entrepreneur, and CEO. Now we'd like to ask each of you to quickly go ahead and please introduce yourselves to our community. Tom, please go ahead. Have we got Tom there? I hope we haven't lost Tom. Merit, are you there? Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. Thanks for having me back. I'm so excited to be back, and thank you for inviting me back. So I started my career in New York City working in public relations with hospitality and fashion brands like the St. Regis, Hotels and Resorts, Alexis Batar, Ely Coffee. Loved being in New York, but really wanted to move to San Francisco. So I moved to San Francisco about 5 years ago and continued working in public relations, primarily with technology startups in the digital media and advertising technology space. Got burnt out from public relations after a number of years and decided I really wanted to expand and develop other areas of business knowledge, and was brought on board by a East Coast design agency to open a California office. I ended up leading West Coast sales for them until a client that I had won asked me to come on board to develop their business development strategy. And it was a venture-backed fintech startup in Silicon Valley. And I was with them for a couple of years, closed over a dozen deals in the automotive, real estate, and financial space, including Uber and other Fortune 500 companies. And today I have since left that company. I'm embarking on an entrepreneurial endeavor, writing and consulting women entrepreneurs. So I definitely can relate to this subject matter.
Well, thank you, Merit. I'm sure all of you remember Merit joined us very early on in our community journey for our Global Young Game Changers session. So we're very excited to have you join us today, Merit.
Yeah, thank you.
Jessica, are you there? Would you like to say hi to everyone?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go for it.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Jessica Perdomo from New York. 2 years ago, I quit my job at Ralph Lauren with $800 in my bank account. We were in the south of Spain, and I found this incredible leather and designed a pair of shoes for myself. When I got back to New York, people were stopping me on the street asking me where they could buy my shoes, and they couldn't. So after about 8 people asked me where could they buy my shoes, I called the family in Spain and asked them if they wanted to collaborate. We put them into production, and it's been 2 years. We've been mentioned in like Vogue and Footwear News, and we've been on Univision. And now I'm so grateful to be here and listen in because I want to figure out how to scale my business.
And we're very excited to have you join us, Jessica. I think there are a lot of community members that definitely want to reach out to you about your shoes, myself included.
That's wonderful. Yeah, we've got shoes, we know feet, and they fit. They actually fit. We make shoes that actually fit.
Fantastic. Welcome. Mohammed, would you like to say hi to everyone?
Hi, everyone. This is Mohammed Algazzar, an Egyptian pharmacist. I started like any Egyptian pharmacist working in some pharmacies, then salesman for several international pharmaceutical companies in Saudi Arabia. And then also I worked as a sales and marketing manager for Print House and an idea generator for an advertising company. From that point, we were asked to develop or design a flyer for one pharmaceutical company, one of the biggest worldwide, for their #1 selling product in history. It was just a flyer to remind the patients how to not to forget. It's important not to forget their doses, to take it in time. And that time I figured out that this is not enough. We started to think about something that really can make effect. I came up with an idea for a remote dose monitoring, a very unique one, and making a new subcategory in digital health market. And from that time, like 3 years ago, we have been developing that one. I approached the company and already got a contract for them for a pilot quantity. And we are now developing our 4th prototype, which is the process is successful somehow. I have faced a lot of problems like most entrepreneurs are facing worldwide, but here in the Middle East it's a little bit more difficult. Anyway, we're almost there now. We reached a very good,
we'll hear all about it, Mohammed. Time is limited, so we want to jump into our questions.
Done.
Thank
yes,
you. Thank you. We just want to run out of time because we had so many questions to send through. Tom, are you there?
I'm back. Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. Tom, please introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, my name is Tom Goldgamer from South Africa. I started a risk-based marketing company 10 years ago. High level, what we did is we decided to disrupt the market. We take all the risk on all the marketing spend, and we only get paid on the result. So we'll run a full digital campaign for our clients, and they only pay us once they make a sale.
We're very excited to have you join us, Tom. We've watched you build the business. We're very proud of all your success. So welcome and thank you for sharing your journey with our community.
Thank you. Looking forward.
Brilliant. So just before we jump into all our questions, a few shout outs. On the screen are contact details for our panelists. Please feel free to reach out to them. Don't forget to keep sending your questions through to inspire me at onlinefiresideChat.com, and we'll continue to try and include them. Given how many of you are joining us today, once again, we have community champions managing the chat room. So if you have a question for one of our guest panelists, please post your question in the chat window, and we'll make sure that your question does get answered. All your business-related questions, we also have our in-house expert, Dampad Raj Dariwal, all the way from India, will be doing his best to make sure those questions also get answered. Just a reminder, we have community champions and ever-growing meetup groups across the globe. I'm going to spare all of you, but we have them across Mexico, across Cuba, across South America, across Britain, Europe. Africans, we all know you there. We love you very much. Across India, the Middle East, Asia, and Australia. So if you'd like to know more about these meetup groups, please feel free to reach out to us. Or if you'd like to start your own chapter, let us know. We'll do our best to make that happen. On that note, thank you to all our volunteer champions from around the globe. As you know, and we can't thank you enough, you're the heart and soul of our community, and we wouldn't be here today without you. over the next few months, with all your help, we'll be sharing, empowering, and inspiring entrepreneurs from across more than 100 countries. So together, we know that we can make this happen. Thank you to all of you. Thank you again to our growing family of supporters and collaborators from a developing world. We're once again hosting sessions for hundreds of entrepreneurs who don't have access to necessary or understanding of the English language to join our sessions on their own. Thank you to all the government ministries, UN offices, US Embassy corners, British Council offices, university campuses, business spaces, Chamber of Commerce's, community centres, and radio stations and media for your ongoing weekly hosting support and awareness within your regions and communities. Thank you to everyone from our UN Women team. We wouldn't be here today without you. We're once again streaming across news stations today. If you have a radio station you'd like us to broadcast from, please make sure to email us so we can continue to connect with new entrepreneurs and keep growing our global fireside chat community around the globe. Once again, we'll be awarding our weekly awards this week, and we'll be announcing our winners later during the session. Just to remind you, the Weekly Book Award is awarded to active community members who constantly promote and champion our fireside chat community. Stay tuned to see if you're one of our winners. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, we're going to start asking our panelists their expert advice. So we're going to jump in easy, and then we want them to have fun. We want you to have fun. So all get ready. Here we go. So our first question goes as follows. What does it mean for scale? Tom, would you like to open this one up?
Sure. So for me, being able to scale is another way of saying being able to grow. And there's two sides to this. There's transactionally, like how do you increase your revenue, clients, get into different industries, and how do you get your current infrastructure to deal with that? So in my world, we're quite technology-based, so it's scaling up our infrastructure. But the trickier part has actually been our management, our structure, how we make decisions, how we make those decisions, and how you set yourself up for that is, for me, is the fundamentals of scaling up.
Thank you so much. Merit based in Silicon Valley, Germany.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think just off of my experience working with startups from very, very early stage to mid-stage Series C and fundraising, I sort of see startups going through these phases, and I haven't quite strategically mapped that out yet, but I envision, seeing, like, right now I'm an entrepreneur in a very ideation stage, designing a product very early, doing market research. Once that product is able to sell, there's sort of this wall that we hit, and we want to scale from the very, very early stage to producing thousands of products in order to get us to that next stage. I think that there's these walls that we hit as startups that we have to barrel our way through. And I really just haven't mapped it out, but I see startups and they hit this wall, and you've got to push to the next level, whether that's getting fundraising or changing your strategy. There's multiple levels, and it always continues to grow.
Thank you, Merit. Mohammed and Jessica, anything you'd like to add before we move on to the next question?
No, I think that you pretty much covered it for me.
Mohammed, anything else?
Yeah, just scaling, I mean, is to have a clear research-based vision and strategy, and to know what all involved parties needs and perfectly address them.
Thank you so much. Let's move on to our next question. This one's a community question. When do you know that it's the right time to scale your business? Again, to open this one up.
Sorry, you cut out there. Are you asking me to answer this one?
Sure. I wanted you to open it up, give us your thoughts, and then we'll ask our other panelists to give us theirs.
Okay.
When do you know?
The question?
Sure. When do you know it's the right time to scale your business?
For me, it's been the moment that we started getting scale. So we typically bootstrap any initiative that we start, and you very early on get a sense if it's going to catch or not. So once you see clients are interested in your product or your service, my opinion is you start scaling up, because otherwise you're going to run into problems and delivery issues.
Very interesting thoughts. Jessica, you came out of one of the most famous apparel brands in the world. Any thoughts in terms of scaling up in your industry?
Definitely. I'm actually in the process of trying to figure out what that means for me and in my business. I don't come from a business background, so everything that we're discussing is pretty much new to me.
Yeah, you're doing it. I think that's the amazing part, is that you're building this successful business with the customers, but you're not fully aware that you're doing it every stage correctly. I know, Mohammed, you took the same experience where you went out, you got the big corporate customer, they paid you money, and you're scaling your business.
Yeah. But actually, I didn't mean to do it this way. Actually, when I started this project, I didn't know that there are accelerators and incubators and all that process. I just had a product, and I know that there is a need for it, so I just went for the customers, and they were amazed even with a simple proof of concept. So I guess I was lucky.
Merit, I think you'd have a lot of perspective on this, like having just, my being in Silicon Valley and that, I've noticed the things that's done very, very differently here in terms of scaling businesses. As you said, it's very clear cut in terms of raising funding, getting to each of the next stages as far as growing and scaling the business goes. I know, coming from South Africa, and I know Darren will also be able to comment on this, it's about, and Tom, I'm sure you would agree with us as well, it's about going out, getting that customer, and then moving from there at each stage, getting new customers, getting the customers to help fund the growth of the business. So it's two very different worlds. Merit, would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, actually, I think, Mohammed, that's really interesting, because here, from what I've noticed working with startups, just an idea won't get you funding, and I think a lot of times in Silicon Valley, funding is our way of scaling sometimes with some companies that I've seen, but most of the time you want to prove that your idea, that there's customers out there. You want to be turning a profit. You want, when you go to look for money, you want to show the investors that this product is wanted. And if taking it to the next level, if you need money to take it to the next level, you have to show that there's popularity in it, that you can turn a profit, that you have a proven idea. So that's interesting, and kudos to you.
It's funny enough you say that. I was talking to one of the top women venture capitalists in the world 2 nights ago, and she was saying that here in Silicon Valley, it's this issue of everybody comes up with the cool concepts, but then it's difficult to actually get the customers. It's actually better for all our entrepreneurs across the globe to actually go out, get a customer, show that you actually have a proof of concept that they're willing to pay for, and then scale from there. So, Mohammed, well done. We all agree we did the right thing.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
So, moving on to our next question. It's often said that different people should lead businesses through different stages of the life cycle. What do you think of this statement? Tom, I know you've moved from a big corporate to being a very successful entrepreneur. We'd love your thoughts on this.
Fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not at that stage yet, although a lot of people have told me the same thing, and I can start to see it happening. I think when you start off as an entrepreneur, you're very broad. So you're doing the finance, you're doing the marketing, you're doing ops, you're trying to figure out IT. And I think as you grow, your skill base is just not strong enough. So you start you have to suck in guys with more expertise or technical expertise. I do agree with that. I think also what changes is the moment you have more staff, many entrepreneurs, and I'll speak for myself, the staff management becomes quite cumbersome, and the way that I operate is not always conducive to staff management. So I think there is going to be a time where you need to formalize your structures, get professional CEOs and MDs in. We are not there yet, but I think it's coming. So I do agree with it. It's a very different skill set. It's also very different passions and expertise.
So on that note, how big was your founding team when you first started the business?
2, me and my partner.
So we'd love to hear from you in terms of going from 2, how the next stage of growth, any challenges you overcame, anything that would kind of help us understand in terms of that growth, because you have a very big team now. That's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you. Yeah, and the reality, a lot of people ask us, and we actually didn't have this magnificent strategy. We were winging it. So initially we started off as lead brokers. So we found companies that generated leads, we found customers for it, and we just started broking. The third employee was an IT developer, and that was the start of our system, where it was literally integrating all the things that we did manually. And then as we started to grow, in fact, what actually happened, we struck one big insurance company. And the moment we got them on board, we started to get scale in terms of orders in or what we call leads. They wanted a lot of leads. And that triggered everything else. So then we had to start hiring staff. We needed account managers. We needed to grow our IT team. And after around a year, we both worked from home initially. We live in a complex, which means we lived in a flat. And our neighbors started to complain that there was too much noise during the day. We were always on the phone. And we moved out into a bigger house that we converted into offices. And once we had that one big client, it was much easier to go and pitch to other big corporates, because now you've got we had a big corporate on board, and that gave us legitimacy. And over the time, we started to outsource less and actually get those resources into our own team. So we started getting our own designers, development, account managers, and it just started to grow organically.
It's so inspiring you're saying that, because I'm actually off to the very famous HP garage today. We all know it as that tiny little garage that basically started the HP revolution. I know a lot of you know about the Apple garage, where they founded Apple, and I'll send you all the posters. But when I listen to you, Tom, it's like when you think of this big company you've built and you started it in a flat, it's so inspiring, I think, for all of us to hear. So thank you for sharing.
Pleasure.
So, Merritt, you've gone from working with some of the most famous luxury brands in the world, high-profile brands, to working with some of the coolest startups in Silicon Valley. I'm sure you have a ton of insights to share in terms of the transition you first made from the big corporates, but also I'm sure you've seen a lot of things that startup founders have done well and they've done badly in terms of growing their companies. Would you want to share some of these thoughts with us?
Yeah, sure. Oh man, I do feel like I've learned so much from working with startups on what not to do. Sometimes I forget the positives, but I would say, from working with big corporate companies to working with startups, it's the type of person that I am. I am extremely entrepreneurial and love to wear multiple hats and be in startups and get your hands dirty. And if that's the environment that you like, then you're probably a born entrepreneur. I think seeing what founders or CEOs, I've actually seen founders get pushed out of the head position and into the chief creative officer or different positions while the investors bring in CEOs. Sometimes that can ruin the culture. I think it's just we have to sort of be careful in the steps that you take as a founder when you bring investors in, because your business can get turned upside down. In terms of, the good and the bad, I think it's important to have good leadership skills. I think I've seen a lot of CEOs and founders of startups that sort of lack this leadership skill because they're so focused on and they're so attached to the business and the idea that they forget that they need to be leading a team. And so I really, really try to hone leadership skills when I work with founders and CEOs of startups. Also, just being in my PR days, training, media training, and being in the public and speaking. That's the entrepreneurial journey is extremely lonely. You're on your own, or you're working with a small team, and you tend to get so buried in the idea and the business that you forget to present yourself in a certain way in the public. And in my PR days, we spent a lot of time training CEOs and founders on how to present themselves, how to answer questions. So those are definitely two areas.
Talking about that, we're going to have to invite you back for another session, because I've been doing some training with regard to that. And in the US, it's done very differently to the rest of the world. You basically are trained to be a public speaker as a CEO of a startup.
Exactly.
We'd love you back for that as well. We'd love for you to share your insights there. Jessica, would you like to comment on anything Merit was saying?
Yeah, you're hired. She's absolutely right. I am someone who was just so shy for so many years, and I would be in a room and no one would even notice. And 2 years ago, when I decided to start a company, I have trouble articulating my ideas. So someone else will say, well, what you really meant to say was, and I'm like, yeah, how'd you know that? I just didn't know what to say. And of course, leadership skills. I only know how to survive. My skills are survival. So to find a team and be their leader is something that I also need to learn. I haven't scaled in a way where I have a big team. I do have some part-time PR help, but everything else I've been doing myself and kind of just trying to learn myself. I'm just winging it.
But by the same token, having lived in New York, I think that's part of the reason that you're succeeding, because people love your concept, people love what you stand for, people love the fact that your shoes are unique. And, they're buying into your identity, which I think often is important as far as building a brand goes. You came out of Ralph Lauren. That was that image that was created, that lifestyle and that. I don't know if you'd like to comment on that.
I'm sorry, you were breaking up a little bit. Comment on reaching people for yourself.
So basically, your brand, you don't need a big team. Your brand is your image. Your brand is what you stand for. At this point, that works very well for you.
It does. But I'm definitely not the smartest person in the room, and I don't want to be. And there are certain basic things from a structure standpoint that I should know. And I don't. So I guess I need help in business development, and so it can run as a one-person show, but then it's not a real business. It's just a mom and pop shop, which is also okay. I'm sure I can make a great living, but my plan is to share. I want to share this craftsmanship, this old world craftsmanship with the world. And in order for me to do that, I need to be out in the world and not only in New York City.
Very, very, very interesting, honest insights that we appreciate. So thank you. A question for you, Mohammed. As a startup entrepreneur in the Middle East, you've gone from being part of a very big pharmaceutical company with a lot of backing, a lot of support, and you've moved on to becoming an entrepreneur on your own. How do you maintain a mindset of growth when you basically are now doing everything for yourself rather than having that support system behind you?
Actually, I was blessed with two amazing partners. One of them is an engineer. He was team leader in our region, Mohammed, and also another fellow pharmacist here in Saudi Arabia, Saudi guy, is named Mohammed Mandili, and also two amazing subcontractors, System Online in Egypt and Beak in Egypt. Without those guys, I wouldn't be here today. They really helped me a lot in realizing this dream. It wasn't easy to get them, and it was impossible to get to where we are now without them. That everyone had some sort of certain set of skills, which of course you got to develop all the time, and we learn from each other a lot every day. We are supporting each other a lot. We are living the dream and following it. And but the problem here in the Middle East is so hard to get such partners to having the same vision and requesting for to do something different, something might change a little bit in the world, also it is so hard to get some further support from like funding or mentoring or whatever. As you know, Middle East is always, or it's not always, like 99% having whatever invention they're coming from the West, like from Europe or whatever, or from East, but not originating originally from the Middle East. But we are blessed to have each other, and I believe we are doing a good job till now.
Thank you, Mohammed. And you've touched on something very interesting, the concept of country culture in terms of scaling businesses. Now, I know each of you is from a different part of the world, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Tom, how much of a role has South Africa's culture played on your ability to scale your business the way you have?
I think to a big extent, and once again on two fronts. First of all, culture is the way that you communicate with people. It's understanding the need for the products that they need. And besides that, it's a technology that you use to communicate, because different cultures have their take up to technology is different. I think besides the culture, I think another big aspect is the infrastructure in the different countries. So when we look at South Africa, access to connectivity is not as big as it would be in the States, for example. So we have to use technology in a different way in order to access the masses. So, for example, going onto the internet, we don't have that many users. So we would use USSD technology to reach guys. And the way that you communicate with those guys through USSD would be different.
Very, very interesting. Merit, of course, we would love your perspective in terms of Silicon Valley culture and your ability to scale. Please share.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like Silicon Valley, when it comes to scaling, it always goes back to raising capital and raising more money. I feel like we as a sort of tech bubble out here, you just hear that so much more than you actually hear about the pain points in scaling a business without bringing in investors. So a lot of the things that I've seen with startups that I've worked with has primarily been around raising more money, which isn't always the right answer.
It seems like it. It seems like from the exposure I've been getting that you can only scale your business to a certain extent in Silicon Valley if you raise funding from external investors. That seems to be the mindset. I would love to hear your perspective in terms of how things are done in New York. Are they different? Any thoughts you'd like to share there?
I think it really is the technology scene that hones in on this raising more and more money. I think fashion and other industries, hospitality, it's a little different. And when you do go raise money, you're actually raising the amount of money that you would need. You're not overextending yourself. And a lot of the tech firms out here overextend themselves. At least the ones you hear about in the media, because they're the ones that get the public eye. But it is quite different. And it's much less, I guess, harped on in New York, I would think. And maybe Jessica, you can speak a little bit on it, but I just don't see it as much in New York City.
The raising excess amount of money. Yeah, it's true. I went to a meeting with investors, and they were saying how I'm curious because in Silicon Valley it's like majority male. They were saying how women usually try and raise only what they need, what they know they need, and men are just like, I need $1 million. And like, what are you going to spend it on? I don't know, but I know I need $1 million. So, but I haven't had those kinds of conversations yet. So I'm not really sure. I haven't really been around it to give you an educated opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think the women versus men when it comes to talking about money, even when it's salary and investments, that's like I can imagine that being the case, but it's like totally another subject.
Thank you to both of you. Okay, moving on. Now we're talking about employees as far as growing companies goes. And I know we've mentioned that, Tom, you've built your team up pretty dramatically. Our other entrepreneurs are going through the challenge of those growth phases. One of the things I think a lot of our entrepreneurs face is that it's the first time to ever be hiring teams. And, as they often say, it's like to some extent that these people are going to be with you for a long time. You got to kind of look into the future and see, are these people the type of people that like to be working with in 5 years' time, 10 years' time? And you've got to be very forward thinking. Tom, are there any specific character traits you look for when you hire employees that will ultimately help you create the company you're looking to build?
Yes, there's definitely character traits, but I think the reality that I experienced, your business life cycle also determines the type of guys that you hire. When we first started off, we knew who we wanted, but they were typically far too expensive for us, and we didn't have funding in the beginning. So the route that we took is we took young guys. Even at this current stage, our average employee age is 30, 31 years old. So we started when we hired young guys, and we hired purely for attitude and with a very strong entrepreneurial flair. A lot of them didn't come from our industry. They were taught within our organization. As we've grown, there's some backlash to hiring those type of employees because they're highly entrepreneurial, and the chats always end up being about equity. They want equity in the company, and there's only so much equity that can be given away. So now, as we've started to mature, we're looking for much more process type orientated people, specialists. So the culture and the type of person changes over time, and as your business changes.
So you've touched on some very interesting points. The idea that there's only so much equity to go around. How like I know in South Africa we've been on this journey in terms of explaining to potential employees that this concept, there is only so much equity to go around. How have you figured out a plan that works both for you and your employees where you get the best out of them? I know in the US, the concept of vesting is very important. I'm sure Merit will be happy to talk about this, where you're kind of just giving small amounts of equity over a 5-year period to basically keep people motivated. But it's a process. We'd love to hear your perspective in terms of what has worked for you in South Africa. And then again, that transition to finding specialists in terms of motivating them when often entrepreneurs' budgets are very limited.
Yes, so in our case, because of the nature of our business is very stats driven, we literally can see on a minute by minute how our leads are doing, how much it's costing us, how much are we selling it for. A lot of our guys actually see it. So what we've done is we've created profit shares as opposed to equity. So guys have targets both on input costs, how much they manage to get that down, and on sales. and we allocate a percentage that goes to the individual guys. In saying that, it's been successful initially, but what I'm finding, it's not necessarily a long-term motivator. We've just, for example, started working in Indonesia and spread out into Africa. And we're finding that those type of opportunities are causing much more excitement than the physical profit shares that they give. And maybe just to add on to that, to the previous point, we also don't pay out the profit shares all in one go. So if, for example, we made a profit and they get, let me use a round number, they get $1,000 as the profit share. We pay that out over a period. So we pay the first 50% in the first period, and then the second 50% over two other periods. So it starts creating that rollover effect that gets guys, creates, I guess, a form of loyalty, because if you leave, you're leaving a big pot behind. So it's an alternative to equities, profit sharing. But once again, it gets complicated because the bigger you grow, it gets quite complicated how you split those profits across a big range of guys. And it's something that we're struggling now in our business. We're trying to find what are the alternate ways that we can create that excitement in our company.
So you touched on it. You seem to have a lot of clarity in terms of it. Was it challenging to get to this point? Were there mistakes that you made? Could you have done things differently? Any insights you want to share? Because it sounds like it's working, but it sounds like it was challenging to get there.
Yes, and everything, like in my experience, everything works in a point in time. And then when you look back a year, and you get stuck with a whole bunch of challenges. So you're continuously changing. We've never been fortunate enough to create one model that's sustained and worked. So I think it's the evolution. I think in our environment, we work it out as we go along. We've been fortunate that the core team has been with us for quite a long period. But yeah, there's no magic bullet. I think a lot of it comes down to the relationship and the openness that you've got with the guys. And we literally sit with them. We don't always have all the answers. And guys come up and, bring ideas. We can do this, we can do that. But I can tell you, as we grow, we become more and more rigid in how open we are to some of these creative ideas. Because you end up spending so much resources in working it out.
So talking about that, and I think we'd love to get all out.
Sorry, Alicia, you completely cut out.
Sorry, has your role changed in the business in terms of how daily hours, your meetings? Is a lot involved in growing your business?
So I'm not sure if I heard that. Are you saying if my daily routine has changed as the business has grown?
Yes.
Yes, so it's become much more staff orientated than it was before. Initially, I literally used to do everything. I spent much more time at clients, a lot more negotiations. Nowadays, we open the doors, but we don't actually see the full cycle of the business development cycle. So we've got teams who do that for us. So I've become much less involved on the ground, and staff actually consumes a lot of time. Sitting with staff, getting them on the same page, growing our leadership team that they can take over in terms of a lot of the roles. Because the more you grow, the more layers, there's more layers in the organization, and then there's a lot of disruptions there, and you start losing the core of what you do or the way that you like to do it. So I spend a lot of my time spending time with the key management guys to make sure that everything gets driven down.
Thank you so much. Merit, any thoughts in terms of watching these Silicon Valley unicorns start from operations to global disruptors? I know I was at LinkedIn yesterday and there are 10,000 people on campus, and it's quite something to get your head around. And it started as a very small startup.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, it goes back to your earlier point where there should be different either CEOs or the head of the companies at different stages of the startup. I've also seen startups actually churn and push out employees at those different stages and bring in new employees, whether it's with a new round of funding or wherever that scale is being pushed up. I see some startups actually bringing in new folks to push out the old ones, which can create a nasty environment in some cases. In other cases, I can totally understand wanting, more knowledgeable people in the startup or just different types of people to keep the company going and scaling. It's just it's interesting, and I think it's a lot of times that the strategy comes from higher up, either from the investors or from the CEO or the founder, and you just never really know what those conversations are. Like, I've been on the other side of that as an employee, and you're kind of left wondering, like, what's going on? And I see it all the time.
Thank you, Merit. Now, talking about like growing in that, I know mentorship is very important for us all as entrepreneurs. Jessica, we'd love for you to open this one up. How important have mentors been in you growing your business?
I'm still trying to figure that one out because I have been seeking mentorship and it's not as easy as one would think, especially here in New York. Time is so limited for everyone. It's like you'll send someone an email and say, hey, I'd love to connect for over coffee. And they'll give you like a date 3 weeks from now. And between now and 3 weeks, the schedule changes constantly. So I'm still trying to find a mentor. I do think that it's extremely important though to have someone who you can turn to and seek advice from in starting a business. I think it's crucial.
Do you find that, let me ask Mohammed, interest?
I don't know if the question was for me because it keeps cutting in and out. I hope
no problem. I was asking Mohammed. I was just asking Mohammed for a follow-up. Mohammed, in terms of mentors from big pharma companies outside of big pharma, what has your experience been?
Okay, I didn't get the whole question. Can you repeat again, please?
Sure. I'm so sorry, everyone.
No
I
problem.
was asking in terms of mentorship, you can from a company, fantastic mentorship programs in the pharmaceutical industry. What is your experience having this in your business?
Actually, let me first elaborate for the first point you asked. For our team, we didn't hire yet. We are handling all tasks by ourselves and through our subcontractors. I'm handling, for example, sales and marketing, financials. Hussein is handling technical issues, and then Mandil is handling regulatory. But we share all functions together. Sometimes we had to get some freelance to do it with us. But we have a ready list with bios for future employees for all functions, and we approached them, and they are eager to join. So when we are ready to grow bigger, and we are almost there, we will boom. But what's difficult really is to get mentors and investors, especially here in the Middle East. And that I think I believe that with you, joining us, or we join you, it will be for mentors. I think the problem will be solved. And actually, it is not easy to get mentors for a project like ours, for having hardware and manufacturing and everything. And in a specific industry like pharmaceuticals. So we had to do everything from our own perspective and from our own vision. And we suffered a lot because of this, but we couldn't stop, and we can't stop actually. And we are doing well, and we are reading too much online. We are seeing what experiences others have been through, and we are learning from them. But we still, of course, we need a lot of mentoring, a lot of guidance, and definitely we need funds from investors to grow bigger. The project has a huge potential, and we really can't wait to fulfill that.
Thank you, Mohammed. Tom, any thoughts in terms of mentors helping you grow your business, get into this stage?
Yes, we were quite fortunate. Came out of corporate and had a very close relationship with some of the directors and the CEO, and they actually helped us a lot through this journey. I think, you only know what you know after you go through it, and you don't know what you don't know. So I had quite a good experience with mentoring. It's been very valuable. But I think when you don't have mentoring, read. I think there's a lot of material out there that you can suck a lot of information and life lessons from books and articles. So my view is reading a lot also can supplement it.
Very good advice. Merit, any thoughts in terms of mentorship? I know you're very passionate about it.
Yeah, I would probably agree with Jessica. It has gotten more and more challenging. But I think, sorry to go back on the women topic, but as women, I think we are fortunate enough to have such a strong community for each other today, more so than ever. And I think that's an area for women entrepreneurs out there that they should really hone in on and find other women that are doing the daily grind of entrepreneurial life, and just kind of support each other.
So unfortunately we're coming to a close, but we've got a couple of questions that are directed at each your panelists. We have a question here for Tom, and then it's also directed at Merit. Have you found any tools that work particularly well to create employee loyalty?
Any tools? No. For us, it's been a challenge, and we also haven't focused our business so much on tools. Where we have got the loyalty right is relationships that we've got with the guys. It's quite interesting. We were advised against it, but the way we built our company is a lot of the guys either went to the same school, guys who know guys. So a lot of the guys who came on board have they either referred or we know them. So it's quite incestuous in one way in terms of everyone knows everyone. As I said, we were advised against it, but it's really worked well. And it has created strong loyalty. We also hang out together. So we go to each other's houses. We often have meetings at either my house, my partner's house. We go to some of the other directors' house. So although we're now over 200, the mindset and the way we ran it is still very much like a startup. And I think a lot of people are attracted to that personal relationships. We know their spouses, so if you get that right, I think people like to work with people that they like. And that's worked quite well for us so far.
And what's interesting is if you're talking about business books, I've read it, and business books started by could you spend time with employees outside of work hours? Do you see this as a friend? And if you do, you're going to have successful.
Sorry, Alicia, are you completely cut out there?
What I was saying was that your advice is very valuable because basically all the business books say the same thing. Could you be friends with these people outside of work? Could you see yourself being friends with them in 10 years' time? If yes, then you're building a successful business.
Yeah, so that's exactly been what we've done. Initially, wasn't by design. It was purely reaching out and trying to find resources that we know. It does come with certain challenges where things go wrong. It's also, I mean, previously mentioned when when VCs come in, they cull and they get rid of certain staff. When our environment, we'll work through it much more aggressively, before firing someone. And, many would argue it's not good for business because it's a lot of energy spent on or a lot of negative energy spent. So there is challenges with it, but if you get it right, it's amazing. And work and personal life merge into one. We go out, me and my wife, we go out with guys who work with us. They're part of our social circle. And it works, or it worked for us.
Thank you, Tom. Unfortunately, we come to the end of our session, but we'd like to ask each of our panelists to give one piece of advice in the length of a tweet for our entrepreneurs embarked on this part of the journey. Mohammed, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, my piece of advice for all entrepreneurs: never give up. Never give up on your dream. Without us, and I'm honored to include myself, without us, the world will never go further. And one piece of advice for VCs, guys, entrepreneurs worldwide can make the world a better place, can solve all the problems we are facing on any level. And you got to take very good care of them. And thank you so much, Alicia, for your time. And thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mohammed. Merit, would you like to go next?
Sure. Yeah. I think the best advice that I've ever been given, especially in terms of scaling a business, is just grow that network before you need it. Get out there, meet people, network like crazy before you need to know them.
Thank you, Merit.
Was that me?
Yes.
I think my piece of advice is collaboration is key. I think that you should definitely seek people who are doing things similar to you and find a way to collaborate with them so that you can share audiences.
Thank you, Jessica. Tom? Did we lose you, Tom?
No, I'm here. Sorry, you just cut out. For me, it's quite hard being lost in this, but I'd say run it till there's no more road.
Very good advice. Now to announce this week's winners for our book awards. The book that we'll be awarding is The Startup CEO, A Field Guide to Scaling Up Your Business by Nate Blomberg. Congratulations to these amazing winners. Congratulations to Gifty Ala, Elena Cordos Fernandez, Ashni Abedin, Esther Farah, and Parul Jain. We're all very proud of everything you're doing for our community around the world, and we hope you enjoy your book. Thank you to all of you for your support. Thank you to everyone for this amazing session. My apologies if my connectivity was poor. I hope you heard everything. We have some amazing sessions coming up. Next week, Inspiring Women session. We have vets around the world joining us. It's one not to be missed. We have groups that you can connect with entrepreneurs around the world. Our most popular online pitch camp WhatsApp group. Email us at inspireme@onlinefiresidechat.com. I invite you to join it. We also have our Sunday monthly pitch camps and our big investor funding session, where you get to pitch to a panel of global investors at the end of the month. Keep us up to date on all your progress and all your exciting news. We'd love to hear from you. You can drop us an email to inspireme@onlinefiresidechat.com. You can also find me as well as our panelists and our champions on LinkedIn. So please make sure to stay in contact and keep us up to date. Thanks again to everyone. Have an amazing week. Remember, keep hustling and never give up. Bye. So panelists, please shop by. Say bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Bye.
Hi, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Cheers.